what's going on, Freightskills? In this video, we're going to talk about something that's going to be pertinent whether you are just starting out as a broker or if you've been doing this a while and you're just looking to make a little bit more of profit. Because at the end of the day, as a freight broker, all of the shipping revenue that you bring in really means nothing if you don't have a good take home. In other words, if the profit left over after all of your expenses and your revenue is low, then you're not going to be in business very long. All right, so in this video, I'm going to give you 3 maybe obvious ways to increase your profit margin as a freight broker. And if you're not doing any of them, simply applying and giving a little bit of attention to these 3 ways is going to help increase your profit margins, take home more money, and of course, be able to grow your brokerage more. Now, before we get into it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that more people can get access to this information. We put out the best freight brokerage growth information on the internet, hands down, no questions asked. Let's get right into the #1 way to increase your profit margin. The first thing that you can do to increase your profit margin is probably something that's right under your nose, and that is to simply lower your operating costs. I've been speaking to a lot of brokers lately. We have about 2,000 brokers on my email list. There's about, at the time of this video, there's 2,400 of you following this channel, and then I have a Facebook group with another 2,000 to 2,500 people. And one of the most common problems I see with brokers, new and old, is overspending on gadgets and tools and tech and help that they just don't need at the stage of the brokerage they're in. Now, there's a time and a place for high expenses, but it is not when you are just starting out, especially, right? So some of the ways that you can immediately cut costs in your brokerage are expensive softwares. Like if you're spending $300 to $350 a month on a software that just helps you with your carrier insurance certificates, that's $3,000 a year that's not going in your pocket. And realistically, if you're not moving 20 to 30 loads a week, even we move 20 to 30 loads a week and we don't use that software, then it's kind of a waste. You don't really need that. And that's $3,000 that you can put towards maybe a virtual assistant, marketing costs, and other things that are actually going to drive your business rather than just make things a little bit more efficient in the back end, right? So software is the #1 expense that I would advise you to look at. Realistically, all you need is a solid load board. We like DAT, that's our main load board that we recommend to all of our members and our viewers. That's a great one to do. TMS, you need a TMS system. You can't really operate off of an Excel spreadsheet. If you want like a low grade, not low grade, but a simple TMS system just to help you get by as you're starting, you can head over to truckin.io. That's my software I built, and that's pretty much going to give you everything you need to get started as a TMS and a carrier onboarding. So there's that option there. You need a corporate email, which costs about $12 to $15 a month. You shouldn't be using a Gmail, so you should invest in a corporate email. You need a website, which costs about $20 a month. So all in, your monthly costs should be between $300 and $500, I would say. You don't need to be adding a super premium CRM, a super premium email campaign system. All of that stuff is just bells and whistles, and you can get that stuff down the line. But if you're looking to increase your profits, the first place you need to look is what are you spending money on? I recommend you just take a list, write all of your fixed expenses that you get every month, your recurring subscriptions, take inventory of the stuff that you're spending money on. Even if you're buying your office lunch, that can really add up, right? $20 a day on lunch adds up to almost $8,000 to $10,000 a year. It's stuff that you just kind of sweep under the rug is what makes the biggest impact. So really every month you should take a look at all of your expenses, see where you're spending money on, see where you can make cuts, because just doing that is going to help increase your profit, which will help you grow your team faster. And then down the line, you can invest in all of those bells and whistles that'll help you run the business more efficiently. The #2 way to increase your profit margin as a freight broker is to become a better negotiator. Now, as a freight broker, we are in a very unique position where we have to negotiate with 2 parties. 1, the vendor, and 2, our customer. On our customer end, we're trying to get that price up as high as we possibly can. On our vendor end, we're trying to drive that price down as much as we possibly can. Of course, we're trying to be fair to both sides, right? So there's no way of making everybody happy in a single transaction, right? Either the shipper's overpaying and they're upset, or the carrier's getting underpaid and they're upset, right? So our job is to kind of find that happy middle ground and figure out a way to make sure that everybody dealing with us is happy, okay? When it comes to negotiating, simply raising your prices or paying a little bit more attention to your pricing structure to your customers can add up to much more profit down the line. For example, I was just having this conversation the other day. If you get 100 shipments a year and you simply add $25 to $50 per shipment, just on a recurring basis, right? So maybe you have a shipper who gives you 2 loads a month and you just say like, oh, this load's gonna cost another $50. Oh, this one's another $25. This one's another $75, just based off market conditions. That can add up to between $5,000 and $10,000 extra per year. And that's revenue, well, that's straight profit if your costs aren't really fluctuating much, that you are putting in your pocket, right? So if you're a one-man or woman brokerage and you're doing 100, 200 loads a year, simply adding $50 to $75 to those costs, as long as you have a good relationship with those shippers, they're not going to take their business somewhere else. Truly, your value to a shipper, if you're doing a good job, is much more than an extra $50, right? Especially if you're working with really large and profitable organizations, they're not going to be penny pinching you for those small change. Just doing that and being mindful of it is a really easy way to increase your profits. On the flip side, negotiating with carriers, if you can get those costs down an extra $50, that could be a net gain of $100 a shipment right there, right? Carriers are not really going to nickel and dime you over $50, $25, $75, but in the back end, since you're doing volume, you're going to benefit greatly from doing that. All right, so simply by becoming a better negotiator, paying more attention to how you price things versus how you buy trucks is going to help you make more profit in the long run. I'll give you a little nugget of pricing psychology that I teach to my private students. When you are pricing jobs, if you're going to price something at $7.99 or $6.99 or maybe like $7.95, we would prefer to go to the next hundreds and lower the scale. So, well, I don't know if I explained that right, but if we're going to price something at $7.99, we'll give a quote to the customer of $8.35, because if you read anything about pricing psychology, as long as that final digit is lower, the psychology is going to be the same as if it were $7.99, right? $7.99 versus $8.35, not that big of a difference. But when you see that 35 at the bottom, it's some shippers, and it depends who's buying the freight, obviously, they will be more receptive to that, right? It's just like if you go to a store and there's 2 rolls of paper towels, and one paper towel says it's $3.99 for the same amount, next to it is $4.25, but maybe the brand's a little bit better, right? Maybe they have some brighter colors on the packaging, or they have some way of positioning it as a premium. It's not really gonna bother you too much to get the $4.25 box of paper towels if you perceive it's gonna do a better job, right? Same thing with freight. If they perceive you doing a better job than another broker, you're gonna get the work and you're gonna get an extra $50. That adds up over time. Don't discount those small gains like that. And the third and last way, probably the most difficult to implement to increase your profit margins as a freight broker, is to build systems. Now, there are a whole list of systems that you can build, and I help students build systems in their brokerage in a lot of my programs. But building systems is how you get more out of less labor, right? So, for example, a lot of brokerages might have 3 or 4 dispatchers doing the work of what one dispatcher does at my brokerage. And the reason why that is because we have systems that make things clean, predictable, and easy to follow, right? So quoting, for example, every quote that we do is exactly the same. An email gets sent to the same spot, in the same format, with the same information, and the dispatchers do the same thing over and over again. And it's not boring, it's not monotonous, it's just efficient. And it's a lot easier on everybody. A dispatcher properly trained might be able to do 5 to 10 quotes in the same amount of time. 4 dispatchers can do 5 to 10 quotes if there's a system backing that process. Another example of a process that you should systemize is accounting. Who's auditing the freight bills? Who's calling for POD? Who's calling to get old carrier bills? Who's doing collections with your shippers? Do you have a system for that? All of these things need to be documented and placed into SOPs that you can give to your employees or that you can follow yourself. Imagine the amount of work that you can get done in such a little amount of time. If every time you had a task, you can take a list, put it in front of you, and just follow the steps of the list. It eliminates distraction. It makes processes more clear. It streamlines things, and it shows you where things are broken. When you install systems into your business and something breaks, you have a very easy way of going in and saying, all right, this isn't working. We need to change this. We need to make this faster. We need to make this better. We need somebody else to help us with this. So you have a much better view of what's going on. All right, so building systems in your business is something that you should do earlier rather than later, because if you wait too long to build simple systems, what's going to happen is you'll be inundated with work. You'll have too many employees to manage, too many agents to manage, and then you won't have time to develop those systems. Okay, so building systems is a long-term way to increase your profit margins as a freight broker. So you want to start doing it as early as possible, and it doesn't have to be complicated. An SOP is simply a standard operating procedure. You could put it in a Google Doc, a Word document, whatever is easy for you. Save it in a drive, and then whenever you have to do that process, just write it down, review it, and if it works, you'll have an easy way of training your employees. You'll have easy written down structures to follow, and it just makes running the business a lot better. So at the end of the day, we're running freight brokerages to have freedom from our lives, right? We want to be able to spend time with family, friends. We want to do hobbies. We don't want to be chained to our desks and just making calls and running around with our heads on fire all day. Systems are the answer to that, all right? So very important. Install some systems into your business. And those are 3 ways to increase the profitability of your business. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. There's a few links down below. You can check them out. A lot of resources to help you grow as a freight broker. And until the next video, I'll see you soon.